This is Boss Economics World, where we call out the economic clown show with zero filter, zero mercy, and a whole lot of data. Buckle up, because today we're diving into the latest Fed farce, tariff tantrums, and the government's masterclass in economic self-sabotage. If you're an ordinary Joe worried about your shrinking paycheck or a finance pro wondering why the markets are a dumpster fire, this one's for you. Let's roll. Oh, look, everyone, another day, another economic mess courtesy of our fearless leaders. Federal Reserve Bank of Boston President Susan Collins just dropped a hot mess of a speech at Georgetown University, and boy, does it scream, we're screwed, but let's pretend we've got this under control. The Fed might lower interest rates later in 2025, but only if the tariff-driven inflation monster doesn't eat us alive first. And guess what? That monster is 100% a creation of the government's own making. Shocker, right? Here at Boss Economics World, we don't just report the news, we dissect it, mock it, and expose the clowns behind the curtain. Today, we're peeling back the layers of this tariff tantrum, the Fed's deer-in-headlights response, and the deeper economic rot that's pushing us toward a recession that could make the great financial crisis look like a picnic. Spoiler alert, the government's mismanagement is the star of this horror show, and the Fed's playing the hapless sidekick. Let's break it down, from the surface-level chaos to the systemic dumpster fire underneath, with the latest data to back up our righteous rage. First, let's talk about the surface-level drama that's got everyone's panties in a twist. President Trump, yes, that guy, decided to kick off April 2025 with a tariff tantrum, slapping a 10% levy on all imported goods and even higher rates on key trade partners. Because nothing screams economic genius like making everything more expensive for American consumers, right? But wait, plot twist. This week, the administration backpedaled faster than a politician caught in a scandal, announcing a 90-day pause on some of these so-called reciprocal tariffs, except for China, because, gotta keep that boogeyman alive. According to Bloomberg Economics, the weighted average tariff rate is still hovering around a whopping 26%. 26%, folks. That's not a trade policy, that's a sledgehammer to the economy's kneecaps. Now, enter Susan Collins, stage left, with her Fed crystal ball. She's out here saying, oh, don't worry, we'll just keep rates steady for now because, uncertainty. Uncertainty. Lady, the only thing certain is that these tariffs are going to jack up prices faster than you can say, supply chain meltdown. Collins even admitted that her staff's estimates show an effective tariff rate above 10% could boost the Fed's preferred inflation gauge, the Personal Consumption Expenditures, PCE, index, by 0.7 to 1.2 percentage points, with most of that hitting this year. For context, the PCE inflation rate was already at 2.8% through February 2025, well above the Fed's sacred 2% target. So, we're talking potential inflation north of 4% if these tariffs stick. But hey, Collins is chill, y'all, she thinks inflation will gradually revert to 2% over the medium term. Medium term. What is this, a fortune cookie prediction? And let's not forget the bond market, which is having a full-on meltdown. Trump's trade policies have sparked a pullback from U.S. Treasuries, sending long-term yield soaring. The 10-year Treasury yield hit 4.5% this week, the highest since mid-2023, according to the U.S. Department of the Treasury. But Collins is out here like, oh, financial markets are performing very well, very liquid. Liquid? Sure, if by liquid you mean drowning in panic. This is the Fed's classic MO, folks, downplay the chaos while the ship sinks, then act surprised when we're all underwater. Now, let's peel back the surface and look at the real economic carnage these tariffs are unleashing. Tariffs don't just make your Walmart shopping trip more expensive, they ripple through the entire economy like a tsunami of stupidity. Here's the breakdown, step by step, with the latest data to prove it. Tariffs are essentially a tax on imports, which means higher costs for businesses that rely on foreign goods. Those costs get passed on to you, the consumer, faster than you can say, price gouging. The Peterson Institute for International Economics, PIE, estimates that Trump's latest tariff proposals could add $2,600 annually to the average American household's expenses. That's not pocket change, folks, that's rent money, grocery money, or your kid's college fund. And with inflation already sticky, core PCE inflation has been above 2.5% for 18 straight months, per the Bureau of Economic Analysis. These tariffs are like throwing gasoline on a wildfire. Remember the supply chain nightmares of 2021 to 2022? Well, buckle up, because we're about to get a sequel. Tariffs disrupt global trade flows, forcing companies to scramble for alternative suppliers, which drives up costs and delays. The National Association of Manufacturers, NAM, reported this week that 68% of U.S. manufacturers expect significant supply chain disruptions in 2025 due to these tariffs, with small and medium-sized businesses hit hardest. And let's not forget the retaliatory tariffs from our trade partners. The European Union is already drafting plans to slap tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. exports, according to Reuters. Great job, government, alienating our allies while making everything more expensive at home. Genius. Higher costs and supply chain chaos don't just mean pricier goods, they mean slower economic growth. Collins herself admitted that she expects GDP growth to slow below an already sluggish trend in 2025, as demand cools faster than supply. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, just revised its 2025 US GDP growth forecast down to 1.8% from 2.2%, citing trade policy uncertainty as a key factor. And slower growth means fewer jobs. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that job growth slowed to just 120,000 per month in Q1 2025, down from 200,000 in Q4 2024. If these tariffs stick, economists at Goldman Sachs predict unemployment could rise to 5.5% by mid-2026, up from 4.1% today. But hey, at least Collins says it's not a significant downturn. Tell that to the millions of Americans who'll be out of work, Susan. Here's the kicker, the Fed is stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it's all thanks to the government's tariff tantrum. If inflation spikes, the Fed might have to raise rates, not lower them, to cool things down. But higher rates would choke off growth even further, risking a full-blown recession. The Conference Board's leading economic index, a key recession predictor, has been declining for 6 straight months, signaling a 70% chance of a recession by Q3 2025. And if the Fed does nothing, inflation could spiral out of control, eroding consumer purchasing power and tanking confidence. The University of Michigan's gauge of long-term inflation expectations just hit its highest level since 1993, as Collins noted. That's not well anchored, Susan, that's a 5-alarm fire. Now, let's zoom out to the big picture, because this isn't just about tariffs or the Fed's tightrope walk. This is about a government that's been playing economic Russian roulette for years, and now the chamber's loaded. The tariff tantrum is just the latest in a long line of blunders that have pushed us to the brink of recession. Let's count the ways our fearless leaders have screwed us, with data to back it up. The U.S. national debt just hit $35 trillion, or 125% of GDP, according to the U.S. Treasury Department. That's the highest debt-to-GDP ratio since World War II. And what do we have to show for it? Crumbling infrastructure, a healthcare system that bankrupts families, and tax cuts for billionaires that did nothing for growth. The Congressional Budget Office, CBO, estimates that interest payments on the debt will hit $1 trillion annually by 2026, crowding out spending on education, healthcare, and social safety nets. But sure, let's spend our time on tariff wars instead of fixing this mess. Priorities, right? Trump's tariffs aren't about economics, they're about politics. He's playing to his base, waving the America First flag while screwing over American consumers and businesses. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce estimates that Trump's previous tariffs, 2018 to 2020, cost the U.S. economy $46 billion annually in lost output and killed 142,000 jobs. And now we're doing it all over again, but bigger and dumber. Meanwhile, China's laughing all the way to the bank, diversifying its trade partners while we alienate ours. The World Trade Organization, WTO, reports that U.S. exports to China fell 15% in 2024, while China's exports to the EU rose 12%. Great strategy, Don, really sticking it to M. Businesses hate uncertainty, and this administration's flip-flopping on tariffs is the definition of regulatory whiplash. One day it's 10% tariffs on everything, the next it's a 90-day pause, but oh wait, not for China. How are companies supposed to plan, invest, or hire in this environment? The National Federation of Independent Business, NFIB, Small Business Optimism Index just dropped to 91.5, its lowest level since 2021, with policy uncertainty cited as the top concern. But hey, at least the stock market's liquid, right, Susan? So, where does this leave us, folks? Spoiler alert, it's not pretty. The government's tariff tantrum is pouring fuel on an already smoldering economy, the Fed's stuck in a no-win situation, and the rest of us are left holding the bag. Inflation's going up, growth's going down, and jobs are on the chopping block. The Conference Board, Goldman Sachs, and the IMF all agree, we're staring down the barrel of a recession, and it's not a question of if, but when. And who's to blame? Not the Fed, though their wait-and-see approach isn't exactly inspiring confidence. No, the real culprits are the clowns in Washington, who think economic policy is a reality TV show. Tariffs as political theater, fiscal irresponsibility as a lifestyle, and regulatory whiplash as a cherry on top, this is how you tank an economy, folks. And the worst part? They'll blame everyone but themselves when the ship goes down. Here at Boss Economics World, we don't just rant, we demand action. Ordinary Americans, it's time to wake up and hold these clowns accountable. Call your representatives, vote out the economic illiterates, and demand policies that actually help working families, not just billionaires and political egos. And finance pros, it's time to get loud, use your platforms to expose this nonsense and push for real solutions, not just more Fed band-aids. Until next time, this is Boss Economics World, where we keep it real, keep it spicy, and keep fighting the good fight. Share this video, smash that like button, and let's get the word out. The economy's on fire, and it's time to douse the clowns. Peace out.